Hello, I'm Richard with EV4U Custom Conversions. I'm going to replace the coupler that couples the shift rod to the shifter shaft on the transaxle. So we're going to replace that with a new item that has urethane bushings and it's a much tighter setup and should last a very long time. The whole idea in regards to replacing this and the next item I'm going to show you is to cut down on the slop that we have in the shifting mechanism. The Volkswagens are notoriously kind of sloppy shifters, and that's because they have a long shift rod. I mean, the shifters in the front half of the vehicle, and the transaxles in the rear. So to connect that shift lever to the transaxle, we have this shift rod, which is several feet long. And of course on the buses and so forth, it's even longer. So this is what supports it in the back. The shaft from the transaxle goes in here, and the shift rod connects here. And so the shift rod is supported in the rear by the transaxle shift rod. So that's the rear attachment and support. In the front, where we have our stick shift go down into the tunnel, there has to be a way to support the front of that shaft, that shift rod. And that's supported right behind, if this is our shift lever, it's supported right behind it here. So this is where our shift rod is supported. And this is what it looks like. And this is mounted directly below the shift lever. And our shift rod enters here. And there's a little cup in the shift rod that the ball from the shift lever goes into. So what's happening when you're shifting is that shift rod is rotated and it's moved linearly. And the weight of that shift rod, like I just explained, it's supported in the rear by our coupler and in the front by this little hanger and this little plastic bushing. The plastic bushing is rather thin. It's not a whole lot of thickness to it. You grease up the bushing and the shift rod real well, and that's how that thing sits in there. Well, they're little time bombs. They just don't last as long as you'd like them to, and they're kind of a pain in the butt to change. And we're going to show you how to do that in just a bit. As a matter of fact, I'm going to show you a few things. One, I'm going to show you what I think is an easier way to remove the shift rod than what most of the books, how they tell you to do it. It's a kind of a slow, painful way that they do it. I'm going to show you a much easier and faster way. And then I'm going to show you how to get rid of this setup right here. Now, this consists of 3 pieces. You've got a little clip right here. And that clip keeps the tension on the rod. This bushing is got a slit in it, and then that fits into this hanger. So here's the hanger without the bushing. Here's our little bushing. It's a $1.95 part, and it's worth about that much. You can see it's a real thin wall, And they've got a rod rubbing in here all the time. And there's pressure on it. It's being pushed, you know, when you're rotating that rod, the way it does it, it's pushing forces outward on this, and they just don't hold up. So what happens then is, once you've worn through this, and this basically breaks in two, now all we have is our hanger. And this is just a thin piece of metal here. And that shift rod then is in here, all loosey-goosey. And so as it continues to move back and forth, it's wearing down this. So then this gets worn, they put a new bushing in, the bushing doesn't fit very well, and it just accelerates, you know, that movement will just accelerate the wear on this. Not to mention sloppy shifting. Without this being nice and secure, you'll have problems between, you know, first and second side of things, and third and fourth. That's because of this bushing being worn, and I'd be willing to wager that this piece is worn as well. Another way that you know this is done, not just the poor shifting quality, but as you'll be able to hear it. You'll be able to hear that metal shift rod banging against this. And so I'll show you that right now. Okay, so we've pulled back the carpet, and so we can expose the base of our shift lever here. We've marked it so that we know where this is, so it goes back in the exact position so that our shifting is correct, because this is slotted, this top piece is slotted, and I'll show you once it's removed. But anyway, I was talking about how you can hear the thing in there, so listen to this. That's that shift lever or shift rod in that hoop, in that hanger. Clang, clang, clang. So when I was wanting to go into second gear and you pull it over here, well, instead of that thing rotating, it just moves over. So it went into third and fourth, no problem, but it was second gear. Typically didn't have a problem getting in first. It was just second gear was a little tough. So we're going to fix that permanently. I'll show you what we do to make that repair to where that will never be sloppy again, and we'll never ever have to do this procedure again. But before that, there's something else we have to do. All right. Well, before we can remove and replace this, if we were going to go back with this stock setup, which we're not. But either way, we need to remove the shift rod. Now the shift rod, I don't know, it's about 4 feet long. It's over 3 feet, I'm pretty sure. We can measure it when we take it out. It fits in here, like I mentioned before. And from here, it goes to the back of the vehicle. Also, on the front end here, we can't go that way because, one, we run out of vehicle, run out of tunnel, and there's that end on it, and I'll show you a photo of that, that there's a cup that shift lever, there's a ball on the bottom of the shift lever that fits in. Well, that's larger. That will not come through this. So going that direction isn't an option towards the back. We have to go out towards the front. Well, towards the front, Well, we got to come through the car. So Volkswagen has accommodated that. There's 3 cover plates that must be removed in order to remove that shift rod. And so there's one at the end of the tunnel, which is kind of harder to see, but we'll show you that. And there's one at the on the body here that is down in the spare tire well, both on the Bug and on the Karmann Ghia. I'm going to show you the ones on the Bug here because they're easy to see, and you'll see that in a moment. And then there's an outer cover plate on the Bug, or it comes out through the horn hole on the Karmann Ghia. So let's take a look at that right now. Okay, this is the front end of a VW Beetle. Here's that front cover plate I was mentioning. This has a nut on the inside here of the spare tire well. Then the next cover is right here. And again, one little Phillips screw removes that cover. Then on the back side of that, this is your twin torsion beam on the front suspension here. There's a cover plate. This is the front of the tunnel. There's a cover plate there that must be removed. And then that shift rod is removed, comes straight on out of the car. Let's take a look under here and see if we can see that cover plate. You see it? You can see the 2 bolts that hold it in place. Okay, so that's what's involved to prepare for removing that shift rod. Those cover plates must be removed. Our stick shift will be removed. And then that rod can go out through the front of the vehicle. And so we'll show you how we do that. All right. Well, here it is. This is the inspection or access plate. This was on here when we bought the vehicle. I don't know what the ground wire is for, but need to remember to replace that. That hasn't been off in a while. Put this back like this just so we remember where it goes. So, here's that junction right here. Here's that union we were talking about. We'll try a different camera angle to see if we can get a better shot at it. Anyway, there's one bolt here that will disconnect that union right here that goes to the shift linkage. This is the shaft from the transaxle right here. And this comes from the linkage. They're coupled right there. Well, it looks like a pretty good shot. You get the idea. I'll move the shift lever so you can see. So anyway, that's what we were looking for. Trying to get to where we could have access to that one little bolt right there. Well, as with so many things on the VW, this is a 13 millimeter. Be careful, this is under some spring tension. Remember to mark it so you can put it back where it comes from. Same orientation. Grab my spring here. There you can see. Here's the ball. And then what's below that is the little shift gate here. This is what is used to keep you from going into reverse when you move it over for first and second. You have to push down to bypass this gate, and that allows you to go further over this way to access reverse. So let me get some better lighting and we'll get a camera shot. You can see this hanger, and it's exactly like I told you. The bushing is not in the hanger, it's just hanging loose here. All right, there's the shift rod right there. And there's the bushing, or half of it I should say. And let's see if we can get a shot. Try to get in here with the camera with a light and my old carcass. There. But you can see that hanger. It's just metal against metal. So, put my finger in here and you can hear it. It's metal against metal. Okay, so one of the first things we're going to do is we're going to rotate this thing. We're going to rotate it so that the cup is facing downward, so that we get clearance on the top of this. If we didn't rotate it, it would be hitting the top of the tunnel here and so forth. So now it's rotated with the cup facing downward. Okay, I've removed the cover plates. And on this model of Carmagia, I also had to remove the front bumper. And so now you can see we have a straight shot. I'll try to, I've got the hole lit up so you can see it better. But anyway, I'll show you what we're going to do to pull that out through those holes and out of the tunnel. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this length of PVC pipe, and I'm going to put this in through the front of the vehicle, run it to where I'm to the shift rod, and then I'm going to connect this to the shift rod and just draw it right out. The way that most of the books tell you to do it is use some long needle nose pliers, and it's a kind of a slow process. But what I do is I take the length of PVC and I cut a notch in it like this, basically about half of it removed. Then put a hole through it and put a wire tie. And I'll show you what we do with this once we get it on the inside. Okay, I'm going to feed this into the vehicle here. see where I'm going. Really quite easy. There it is. So let's take a look at the view from inside the vehicle. Okay, what I'm going to do next is I'm taking a separate wire tie and I'm going to loop it around my shift rod. So now I've got the shift rod, okay? Then I'm going to get my ABS pipe with this hook and bring it up, and it's going to go on top of that shift rod. Difficult time doing this and filming at the same time, all in a tight space. But there you can see, now I have a wire tie that is around the diameter of the PVC pipe and the shift rod. Okay, so the ball or the socket that the shift lever ball fits in is to the front here, and so my wire tie is behind that, and it's holding those two together. So I'm going to clip this right now with a pair of dikes, and I'll show you what I'm going to do next. Next, see how we've got the that other wire tie. I just turned this 90 degrees, and I'm tightening up this other wire tie right here, and that's the one that went through the hole in the PVC pipe. You can see how the how this is fit in my slot in my PVC pipe. And I'm going to pull this tight. Well, I guess I've already got it all the way tight. So then I'm going to cut this one, and then we're going to pull it out the front of the vehicle. I'll meet you up front. Okay, so here we are up front. Here's our PVC pipe for shooting. And so now I'm just going to slide this gently. And you can see how quickly and easily it comes out. And I have to turn it here to fit through the hole. And there she be. So you see how I did that? And if you're using both hands, instead of trying to hold the camera, and it actually is quite easy to capture this. And there you have it. I can yank all day on that. So this is exactly the same way as we will put it back in. So we'll clean this off and move on to the next step. You can see here's that retaining clip that went on our piece, and this thing is just cut in two, as they always are. Okay, I'm going to be headless in this one, but I want to show you the setup here. This is the stick shift with the shift rod without the bushing. As you saw when we looked at it in the vehicle, the bushing had been cut in two, which is very common. Here it is. So this is kind of what was left of it right here. And so that's commonly what happens, is right here, this is the point where it goes into the hanger, and it just from that rod running back and forth, it just cuts in half. And so then what you have is the metal to metal. And so you have that sound that we heard inside the car, remember? All this kind of noise. And that's because it's rubbing metal against metal here. So I'll give you a little closer up view of that. So anyway, what that bushing does is it centers this in that. And so instead of metal against metal, you have metal against this. But you grease them up well, you grease up the rod real good, and that buys you a little bit of time. But like I said before, the bottom line is they're a time bomb. We're going to show you the way that we fix this problem, which is a permanent fix. Never again have to visit this problem. This is a replacement for the stock nylon bushing, but this one is different. It's guaranteed for as long as you own your car. Here's a shot of the new bushing. Now the stock bushing is this nylon piece, and we're replacing it with this piece right here. Now the big difference is that this will last as long as you own your car. This probably won't. Now there's a big cost difference. The big difference is in the labor. You will never ever replace this one again. You'll go through that hassle one time. Another difference between the two is that this bushing doesn't require a bunch of grease and everything. It's basically installed dry, and it has oil impregnated in it, and it's basically self-lubricating. It's held in place with a clip, so it's a two-piece ordeal, just like the original one. Original one has the nylon bushing and this little ring around it. Well, this is put into our hanger, and then a clip holds it in place. And I'll show you the bushing with the shift rod installed and our gear shift lever installed here. I just wanted to show you the bushing by itself. Now, this bushing also comes with a installation tool that allows you to install this real quick and easy. It's probably no more difficult to install than the stock one was. Like I said, big difference is this will wear out. This one will last you for as long as you have your car. So if I'm going to do the labor, I'd rather do it one time, get that hassle over and done with, and never worry about it again. And this is how you can achieve that. Okay, here's our mock-up of the gear shift lever, our hanger, and this is our shift rod in place. So you can see with our new bushing in place, it goes between third and fourth very smoothly, or first and second, and third and fourth. And then also first and second, third and fourth. Well, falling off my little hanger over here. But anyway, moves very smooth, full range of motion. Talk about how the books tell you to use long nose pliers. Well, these scrape marks, these marks, and they're all up and down this thing and on both sides, that is from using long nose pliers. And so we want to remove that. We're going to take some fine sandpaper and we're going to remove all the gouge marks on this shift rod so that it will slide through our new bushing nice and smooth. Okay, here's a shot with the stock nylon bushing in place. Now, it's a much tighter fit and it was a lot harder to get this thing to slide on. We had to lubricate the shift rod, and I've got it lubricated now just so that it will move. It, you know, it's nice and quiet. It's a real tight fit, and I hold this and stay out of the way of the camera. You know, it will have full motion, just as it should, just as our other one did. But we're going to zoom in closer. One of the typical places these break, and you can see from the one that we removed from the vehicle, this is where it goes most of the time. This is right here where it goes through the hanger. And this shoulder right here, that's where the little ring rides. So it's you know, it's a nice tight fit and all of that. Give you a nice clean tight shifting. So will the other bushing I just showed you. But this one is a built-in time bomb. Let's see if we can zoom in a little better and kind of give you a shot at what I'm talking about. Let's see if I can do this and not block the camera. So you can see when this moves, and when we go like this, the thing actually wants to move. If it weren't for the lubrication, it would, you know, be all over the place. So you use a multi-purpose grease on these, and that's to, you know, make it move easily and to buy you some time. But what that grease does is these actually get soft over time and it will just wear. And that's even more true if you have a hanger that is old and this nylon bushing or insert has worn through and it was metal to metal. It'll, you know, kind of cause it to have a little edge on that hanger, and that hanger becomes like a little knife and it helps cut this faster. That's why I prefer the little bushing. And here it is loose. There's a little ridge right here where the keeper, the little clip goes to hold it in place. And it can be lubricated also. You can grease this up. Like I said, it's not necessary, but I typically throw some grease on them. It doesn't hurt anything. But the nice thing is you can install this bushing onto the rod or the rod into the bushing is actually how it's done, without greasing this thing all up to allow it to pass through, which is just a mess. I mean, it's kind of a messy job replacing this bushing. And so in a previous video we showed you how to remove the rod. We now have shown you the bushing installed. This is the way it goes. That's the rear of the car, that's the front of the car. So this hanger is behind. This is the hole that goes through into the tunnel. This is the stick shift sitting on top there. And so the front of the car is that direction. The shaft goes to the rear. And so this is installed first, and then you've got to work this rod through this bushing. The way that we do it will make it easier for you. I'm going to show you a trick to doing that. But either way, these aren't the easiest thing to do, and that's why I like replacing it with this basically lifetime bushing, because then I never have to do that job again. So here we have our shift rod ready to go back in the vehicle, and so we're going to fish it back in through all of the holes in the body and in the pan. And I'm going to stop right there, and we're going to attach our piece of PVC that we used before for removing the rod. We're going to put that on there again to aid in installing the rod. Makes it much easier, much faster, and it doesn't damage the rod like the long nose pliers do. So you'll recall from our shift rod removal episode, we have our piece of PVC pipe with the little notch. That we're going to now attach to our shift rod. I've got the little hole here that we'll put one through. Now we get the pliers. Pull that through. That sits on top, and we'll go around like this. And we've got another piece that we're going to put over the top here. Okay, and so these, keep these two together nice and snug. I'm going to snip this one. So it's not in my way. Snip. We'll snip this one too. Okay, now we're ready to go. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this in gently. I'm not going to force anything. And we're going to go all the way in until we get to our bushing. When we've got this to the bushing, just take a piece of wire. We're going to lift up the shift rod and fish it through that bushing. So once we've got it started into our bushing, we'll go back out front again, and we'll continue to slide this shift rod all the way through to where it's in the back where we can hook up our coupler. Once we've reached the shift lever hole here with our shift rod, we can now cut loose our straps. So I would remove that one and the next one, but I'm going to use both hands to do that so that I can have a grip on the wire tie with some long nose pliers, and then with the dikes cut it, and that way it doesn't fall down in the tunnel. Then once that's done, we can rotate this. It's at 90 degrees from where it should be right now approximately. We'll rotate it up and we'll bring the gear shift lever back and mount it where it goes. And I'll show you that in a moment. Once we cut the wire ties, then we can extract our piece of PVC. And that's it, folks. Installed. Very quick and easy compared to the way the books tell you to do it, a little bit at a time with long nose pliers. So anyway, next we can put the covers back on, put our bumper back on, button up the front end of our car. But next, don't need to show you that, but next we'll show you installing the gear shift lever. Install our gear shift lever. Our plate, which goes just like this, the long portion goes to the passenger side. Will go in like this. Then our spring needs to fit on top of that and be centered. And we have to have our shift rod lever rotated, which I didn't do yet. Yeah. Okay. Put our spring over it. This underneath. Get one of the bolts in here. And the other one. Making sure that nothing's underneath this. And making sure I'm in the make sure the ball's in the socket there. And indeed it feels like it. So just finger tightening these. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to set it to the marks that I made when we removed it, so it goes right back in the exact same position, and then we'll torque down these bolts. Next, we're going to install our new coupler. We'll just disassemble it slightly here. We just got to pull the pin out. This comes out. We'll take this bolt out for right now. And just gotta raise this up where we can get it. Get everything to line up. This
two different size bolts here. Okay, I'll torque that later. But next what we're going to do is we're going to slip this back on to the shift shaft coming out of the transaxle. So wiggle it a little bit. Use my stick shift a little bit to help me here. Looks like it's lining up. Put our bolt in. I'm going to drop it down there in the tunnel. Get it to start threaded. Here we go. It's good. We'll go get a wrench and tighten that. And that part's done. And our coupler is back in place. Just need to torque things down. So what's next? Well, what's next is we got to cover this, put the inspection plate back on. I'm Richard with EV4U Custom Conversions, and I thank you for watching.